It's Monday, June 13th, 2016. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, talking to your computer.
Let's do this. So, there are certain things that, become, personal traditions, like something you do every year or something, right?
Yeah, I got a few of those things.
You got a few of those things. It's like your thing and you always do it.
Like every year around Emily's birthday, we go for some sort of crazy hike or some sort of outdoor adventure.
Oh, okay. So for the past, I don't know how many years, right? Either by chance or by intention, I have gone to the Big Apple Barbecue at Madison Square Park. But this year, for whatever reason, it was this weekend, and I didn't know about it until it was too late.
Oh, you don't read Gothamist enough. You missed Christmas.
I read it, and that's where I found out that it happened, and they posted after it was already happening. I'm like, where were you during the week?
I skipped it every year, but only because unless you get there early in the day.
That's what I did. I would bike there at the crack of dawn and eat ribs and beans at 10 or 11 a.m., and this one dude's beans have become maybe my favorite food after it's
that's the desert island food.
It's a tough run between that and salt and fat.
I was about to say, you know where I ate the other day?
Salt and fat.
Yeah. So they have the menus all different now, but
it's always all different.
Yeah, that scallop is there.
Of course, it's there.
And
Did they go back to ice cream?
The ice cream's not going yet. Next month, the ice cream's back.
I'm going next month then.
But instead, I got that panna cotta that I never get.
No, I don't need.
So you know what's under that panna cotta? Like a half-inch thick sponge cake made primarily with olive oil.
Okay.
Holy shit. Was that probably really bad for me?
Anyway, so I totally missed it. But the guy who owns the John Brown place is
that place is the one that's right here?
Yeah, he's opened a new place in Astoria. So, that place is crazy good food, especially cornbread.
Oh, my. So
when
that place...
he doesn't run out of food or have bad service.
There's two problems in my life right now related to that place. One, it's right next to the climbing gym that we go to all the time.
So you try to go there too much?
So if I walk out of the climbing gym...
It's real tempting?
No, think about this. You're exercising for an hour, climbing up walls.
Now you're hungry.
And then you smell...
barbecue.
Real fucking good barbecue, legit.
I would just get a cornbread only if I want to hurt,
Also,
I can't eat barbecue that often, no matter how much my body wants to.
Also, they
I
give
know
you a
it's
discount
a bad idea.
if you're a member at Cliff's on certain days.
Oh, no.
But there's a far more insidious problem. When
Yeah.
I bike to work, my path goes past that place.
Really? That's a weird... Wouldn't you just... you're going down that street, you're not just... It shouldn't... Usually it would be just off to the left.
No, so
if you're going down Vernon...
The fastest way to get to the Pulaski is to go and then turn right on that street. I think it's 44th.
And then get on Vernon?
And then turn left at the next bike
I would
path.
turn right and go alongside the bridge, get on Vernon, then turn left.
So there's a shorter way if you just go under the 7 train the whole way, but there isn't bike lane through a chunk of that, and that is the most aggro driver place in Queens.
If I was going from here, what I would do is I would just cut through that Nodder Road next to the project.
No, that's too far out of the way. That's way.
And then go south on Vernon.
No, you're better off doing the because if you go that that bike path goes straight into the Pulaski. Otherwise, you've gone out of your way because you're coming back from that road later.
I'm going right, and then I'm going south. It's not like I'm going north.
It adds a not insignificant distance.
Whatever.
I track my rides pretty closely. I know the absolute fastest possible way to get to
I'm also
work.
not in a big hurry to go to
but
work.
The problem is, a real barbecue place, they start making the barbecue early in the morning.
Yeah, it takes all fucking day.
So the smell
That's why they run out of food,
barbecue
because they didn't put enough in the morning.
is perhaps peaking just as I would bike past it every morning. The smell of barbecue on that street is so powerful that I'll be thinking about it all day.
That's why they run out of food.
Yeah, so you know what I did instead? Instead of doing the barbecue thing, I just ran 11 miles.
Hey. You want to go eat there
Wanna get
right
barbecue?
after we're done with this show?
Maybe.
Actually, I have 3 Blue Aprons, and I got them on Saturday, and I've cooked 0 of them.
Oh, no. We have a Blue Apron, I think, coming today, so we should probably cook that.
Yeah.
If it doesn't come to... We always have a rule. We always... it's like Matt Cawthon in Wheel of Time. Leave it up to chance. We'll say things like, if the Blue Apron arrives by the time we're ready to eat, then we'll cook it. But if it doesn't...
That's okay. The weather was good. I went to the park. Went to the bake shop.
A lot of stuff going on in the city lately, actually. So I've kind of lost track. Like, there's several events that I saw and thought, oh, I should go to that. And then I went to some other event and forgot about the first
I actually
event.
worked on a shit talk project a lot of Saturday.
I worked on one too.
All right.
I remember how I said I'm going to make that chicken surprise shirt and all the fast food franchise themed T-shirts.
You actually worked on that?
Yeah. So the problem is there are 0 high-resolution scans of the actual art.
Well, we have the fucking game. We can just do it ourselves.
It's very hard to get the game, so I'm gonna basically.
Chris has it,
so I'm going to see if Chris will scan. If he doesn't own a scanner, I'll just buy him one because they're like $10. And
I have actually a way good scanner now because I needed one that could scan film negatives.
We have a good scanner, but it's for like big art. It's not for like little tiny film things.
I only use it for films, but
Yeah,
it can also scan paper because it's a big old flatbed thing.
But I looked at some tentative designs for how the shirt would look, and it looks real good. So this is definitely gonna happen. I'm gonna make a few just so I can buy them myself.
Hope the guy who made the game doesn't come after you.
Well, no. So you can make a shirt and not make it public. So I could just buy it for myself. So I can just print a high quality T-shirt on demand.
Oh, okay.
I can make a lot of shirts. Like I still don't know how I got this account because it looks like it's still invite only from Amazon. But if the shirts look good, I'm gonna make one for me, and I might give one to like Chris or Anthony just as a gift because I feel like that's appropriate. And then the next step is I'm actually gonna try to reach out to the guy and be like, look, can I have a licensing agreement to just make these shirts?
Yeah,
I'll sell them on Amazon.
I'll give you like half the money Amazon gives me. I don't care.
Yeah,
what do I give a shit? I'll give you all the money Amazon gives me.
Or I'll even be like, you know what? I'll sell them at the value where no money comes out, and these shirts just exist.
Or I'll charge them at the price you want them to be charged and give you all the money. I don't care.
Yeah, because I just really like that terrible. Like, there's something about the chicken surprise logo on a bright orange T-shirt that it warms the cockles of my heart.
All right.
So you got any news?
So
I know that this is a loaded question.
Yeah, so 6 minutes before we did the show.
Yeah, Dateline 6:05 p.m.
Right, so we were already thinking earlier in the day, man, what an easy news for a Monday tech show. It's Apple Day. Thank you, Apple, for finally having your day on our Monday. I mean, I'm sure it's happened before, but usually it feels like Apple Day is always like the week before we do a Monday show or 2 weeks before. Or like we'll do a show on Monday and then Apple Day will be Wednesday and we won't come around again till the like a week and a half later.
Yeah, at least once too. Like someone was out of town and we like couldn't do the show for a few weeks.
Yeah,
like,
there have definitely been cases though where Apple Day was on GeekNights Day, but today is one of those days again. And I thought, oh, what an easy day, all this Apple news, right? But no, 6 minutes before we did the show, an even bigger news appeared. That is not tech related, but doesn't matter. It's too big to ignore. And thankfully, it happened before the show and not during the show, so we didn't ruin our show, like stopping in the middle when someone was reading the internet and saw this news.
Which we probably would have. Like, there's very little breaking news that is actually breaking news as far as Geek Nights is concerned.
I was like, this news is so big, I had to be like, Rim, you guys sit down.
Yeah, I'm like,
this news is too big.
Scott's like, it's too big. And I'm like,
this
what?
News is too big.
Did copyright get reformed?
No, that's not that big.
Did gun control happen? Like, what?
No, not that big. But this news is ginormous. You probably know it already, unless, I mean, by the time you're listening to this, right, it's been hours already.
Yeah, and if you know who we are, you can guess what we're about to talk about.
So, one of the most important people, right, the president, I don't know, is he a CEO? Was CEO?
I could look up
I guess I gave up the whole news already.
I'm gonna look up his LinkedIn profile and see what his actual title was, because I didn't even...
Robert, I do not know his middle name. He might not even have one. Koo.
My grandpa doesn't have a middle name.
Has officially resigned as the person who was in charge of Penny Arcade.
He was the president,
sure.
It appears.
One of the most important people who makes the shit happen that we care about.
Yeah, no, he was the... Well, still is, but he is still, until, I guess, mid-July, the president of operations and business development for Penny Arcade Inc. and the managing director of Child's Play. I wonder if he will continue to run Child's Play.
I'm pretty sure he's resigned from everything. He's going to the beach.
But I think that the thing specifically said leaving Penny Arcade. I don't know.
It didn't, I mean, it wasn't detailed enough, right?
To be honest, I know a lot of people who are managing directors of charities, which means they literally do nothing.
Yeah.
So.
You have your name on it, right? So, what does this mean?
It's... and again, we're not going to speculate on any weird stuff.
We don't have any information you don't have, really.
Yeah. Even if we did, if we had information you didn't have, it's probably something we shouldn't share.
In fact, people who paid money to be in Club PA, which we're not in, I think they got a newsletter from him this morning or something, and they know more than we do because we're not paying for that shit.
Yep.
And no one shared that online yet.
Yeah, but it looks like the official PAX site thing just says that on July 15th, he's going to step down, from Penny Arcade and Child's Play.
Okay.
And that's all we know. So generally, when this sort of thing happens, just in general, crapo basic business out there.
There was a drama.
There's either some sort of internal drama in the company itself.
A business reason, like we're not doing so well lately. Out with the CEO. Let's put a new one in.
I don't suspect the latter is what happened here, and I don't even really suspect the former is what happened here, because Penny Arcade is a pretty, as an outside observer, I mean, you never can know unless you're part of one of these things. It looks pretty tight. Like, I feel like there's enough family feeling and intimacy to where it wasn't...
It seems like their growth phase has ended. Oh, you mean drama?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that was drama. But it seems like their growth phase has ended, and they're sort of been really, like, in the status quo of hovering and stability for quite a while.
Which is, when you look at it, they were...
Like a few years, at least. PAX South is already going into a third year. So, like, for the past 2 or 3 years, they've just been sort of doing the same thing, not really doing anything new.
They hit this sort of, like, peak momentum where they started expanding PAXs rapidly.
And not just PAXs, but, like, their other endeavors. Like, they tried the Strip Search, and they tried, all this other stuff.
I really like Strip Search, but I don't think that can make enough money.
No.
Like, just to be perfectly blunt.
They were printing, all kinds of tabletop games, and they're,
And while I love the idea of making tabletop games like that, I don't think most of those games were that good, or at least they weren't going to be profitable enough. They made all
those art video games, the RPG ones.
I own them all. I don't think I ever really played them that much.
I beat the first one. I didn't even play the second one.
But in terms of PAXs, it's interesting because the two main PAXs, West and East, and we'll get back to the fact that it's called West now because it's interesting that they pointedly changed the name to West kind of ahead of all this. So I wonder if that was in a planning phase.
I don't think that has anything to do with them resigning.
No, but it could in sense of like they're trying to align PAXs to be their own thing and sort of consolidate.
I don't think that matters that much.
Well, we'll see because they've definitely been trying to get more people to go to the other PAXs, but
that's for sure.
As the world has shown, no, everyone wants to go to PAX Prime. All the other PAXs are second tier.
Yeah, imagine if there was like San Diego Comic-Con and there was another San Diego Comic-Con. It's like no one...
The Milwaukee Comic-Con, that's the same people and like 80% the same content, but it's in Milwaukee. Like, would you go to Milwaukee?
Apparently there was room for New York Comic-Con, but there's room for East and West PAX.
Yeah.
I don't think there's room for more than 2 things in the U.S. because all you can do is hit the population center on the West and hit the population center on the East.
Yep, because based on the data that I've been able to get access to over the years, my suspicion was
like
sort of confirmed.
C2E2 in Chicago never got big.
PAX West seems to have mostly people who are local or people who have money and just fly to it because it's the big PAX. And the whole game industry is there. PAX East seems to be mostly either game industry, especially East Coast game industry. And, there's 50 to 70 million people within a short drive of Boston. So... everyone on the East Coast goes to that one, or at least tries to, because even if you can't afford to fly out west, like that's within spitting distance.
PAX South is like hardly any industry, or the mid-tier and lower industry who can't,
Like, I'll put it this way: this is the shocking truth.
And locals,
if you
and
listed
diehards,
if you listed in order of like how much actual impact they have in the industry, everyone in the games industry or adjacent to it who goes to PAX South in an official capacity. We're not in the bottom 10th of that list. We're in like the bottom 9th.
Yeah.
Like like we're at the bottom of the list as opposed to not being on the list.
Right.
But PAX South is almost all locals, like from Texas. Like not even from nearby states, but like they live in or near San Antonio and drive there for the day. Like, and PAX Aus is pretty much just people in Asia Pacific and crazy people like us who fly
and
out
mostly
there.
Australians. I didn't see, how many like Chinese, Japanese, Philippines, Indonesian, Malaysian
I get the
people.
impression just because I went to the next pack, the 2 PAX Auses ago after when Scott didn't
You don't see a lot of Antarcticans there.
And what I saw was that I suspect the demographic of people from Asia Pacific who go to PAX Australia who are not from Australia is very close to the demographic of people from Asia Pacific who go to PAX Prime. That is my guess, based on the audiences, based on interactions.
I mean, even people from Western Australia don't go to the Eastern Australian PAX.
Yeah.
Because it's so big.
Like, it's Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, like that East Coast district, and that seems to be the majority.
Yep.
So PAXs can't expand in terms of more PAXs unless those PAXs, like, I hate to say this, but if there were 2 PAXs in Seattle and 2 PAXs in Boston, they'd probably all 4 sell out way more than PAX South does.
Maybe.
That's my guess.
Anyway. But yeah, Robert Koo, what's going to happen to PAX? I don't know.
Yeah, because not for nothing, but even as recently as the PAX East we just went to, like, some shit went down, like with the Boston police nonsense where they were like checking people's bags and crap. Like, it was kind of a clusterfuck. And then we saw physically Robert Koo walked over there and was looking at it and sort of like frowning. And then a tweet came out that was like, we're dealing with this. And then it was dealt with.
And it was from his Twitter account, not the Penny Arcade Twitter account.
And
also, there was the time there was a hotel block and some PAX people couldn't get in their hotel rooms, and because the Oakland Raiders came to town and the hotel gave the rooms to them instead, and then Robert Koo personally went to the hotel and fought with them and got the Oakland Raiders kicked out of the hotel.
Now
and it's like, sure, even if it's somebody else's job to do that, do you think that they will succeed where Robert Koo succeeded? No, I think that another person or most human beings I can think of, like if Mike or Jerry had to go talk to the hotel, they're not going to make it happen. Right? Who do you know in the Penny Arcade organization that could go to that hotel and make that happen besides
because
Robert
that
Koo?
sort of conversation there's a lot of factors. There's the Magic Man factor, or the magic person, someone who just has that combination of gravitas and whatever, which is pretty rare. There's also the knows enough about the industry, business, contract law, whatever, to be able to actually make the real argument that needs to be made, like breach of contract or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's a skill. Like, that's a real difficult thing to do. If you don't know...
It's a skill and knowledge.
Yeah. And then third...
And a personality.
You've also got to be someone who understands, like, PAX and, like, the culture of the convention and its needs. There are very few people who have all of those attributes.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have a lot of faith in PAX because the enforcers do a lot of the things that make the PAX culture good. But an enforcer
can't go fight with a hotel.
Yeah, but there is a tier of things above the top of the enforcers that are at the level of Penny Arcade staff that I hope they find some combination of people who can fill this role effectively, because I don't think there's one person who could.
Nope.
That's how much I respect Robert Koo in all the years I have either interacted with him or just watched him interact with others. So I guess, Robert, we salute you. Good luck, have fun. I hope you are taking a vacation and you enjoy it. And we'll keep going to PAXs.
Until they burn in a fire.
I hope they don't. I hope PAXs outlive me.
Sure, but they could burn in a fire.
Now, if somehow... I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if somehow PAXs decline, I'll do everything I can just to get everyone I know and just start the equivalent spiritual successor.
Sure.
That's what I would do. That would be my life. I would consider quitting a job and then borrowing money to try to make that happen. But hopefully it'll not come to that.
GeekNights Expo, GNX.
I might just go more generic than that. Of course, just GAX. Not even GNX, just GAX.
GeekNights Arcade Expo?
No, it just doesn't
stuff that Nickelodeon...
No, it doesn't even stand for anything. It's just GAX. So I guess in actual techno...
Right, so it was Apple Day, like we said before.
Yep. And it took me...
This is the Worldwide Developers Conference, which means that Apple only talks about stuff that developers care about, and not stuff like products that normal people would buy.
It was surprisingly hard to, without several minutes of Googling, find a succinct list of the things that they announced.
Well, because a tech news site wants to make a whole bunch of stories, one for each item that Apple talked about, to get you to the most ad impressions from clicking on all these separate articles.
Yep. So on the super high level, they're really pushing Swift both as like a general
the super
purpose.
High level, they're talking about their 4 OSs, right?
Yep.
The TV, the Mac, the iOS, and the watch.
Yep. Now, there's no more OS X. There's going to be, what, Sierra, they called it?
No, it's Mac OS.
Yeah.
They changed it, because they had iOS, TV OS, Watch OS, and now
Mac
instead
OS.
of OS X, it's Mac OS, which is what it was originally. I think they really messed up with OS X because they went with the animal names right away, and they kept in those early 2000s, they kept incrementing the animal, and they never had the balls to just make it OS 11.
Yeah.
Right? And I think it's because they never really, even the one, if you compare the newest one to the first OS X, it still has that same fundamental design of the old Mac OS bar at the top, right? The top level menus that you even have on like a Mac Plus, which I have in my closet. But what made it OS X was the taskbar at the bottom. And you still have that exact same fucking taskbar at the bottom. So it's like, it's still OS X. It doesn't seem like it's worthy of an 11, right? Because they haven't revamped it completely. So they just kept improving or, well, changing, the various apps and adding features and like notifications and spaces and all that, all that kind of stuff. So I guess that's the reason they never went to 11 with it. So I guess now realizing that, you can't just keep incrementing the place name while keeping OS X. They wanted the symmetry, so they went Watch OS, iOS, and then Mac OS.
I could cut the other thumb off for symmetry.
Now here, if they wanted real symmetry,
iOS,
they announced iOS 10, but it's Mac OS Sierra. Shouldn't iOS also have like names of things and not numbers? Because you're gonna get to like iOS 37, and then it's gonna be weird, and it's gonna be the marketing people aren't gonna like that.
Well,
for the same reason people they didn't want to do Super Bowl L.
Is this going to get into the situation that video cards got into for a long time? That I think Radeon video cards still kind of have this problem, like the ATI nonsense that processors have, where users, unless they are paying attention, don't really know what version of something they're running anymore.
I think they're going to, either change Mac OS to have a number, or they're going to change all the other ones to have names, and it'll be iOS name, WatchOS name, tvOS name, and Mac OS name.
So they made a big deal about end-to-end encryption and all their privacy stuff, and that whole session seemed to just be a big middle finger to the FBI, which props.
Except they also gave the FBI like this huge like olive branch, right?
Yep.
Because while they were announcing all this shit about, privacy, which Apple does, right? That's a legit thing and that they've always believed, and they're just promoting that fact that they have that belief more than they used to.
Yep.
They also made phones way easier to unlock. They're like, hey, everybody, look, half the new features not half, but a large number of the new features they announced, especially in iOS, were like, check all this stuff that you can do without having to go through the pain in the ass of unlocking your phone.
It's like, really? That's such a pain in the ass with my fingerprint sensor? Or, oh, Android's had that forever. I can run like fucking almost any widget I want outside of my lock
That's also
screen.
a bad idea. Oh, I'll just send a password reset email to Scott, and then I got his phone. I can't unlock it, but I can see the password reset email on the home screen, the lock screen, and then I reset his email. Now I got everything. And then, they also announced a feature that was like a pretty quick thing. They're like, oh, you could unlock your Mac if you're wearing your iWatch. Oh, great. So now it's not something I know, and it's not something I know and something I have. It's the worst of all situations. Well, it's not the worst, which is not locked.
The worst is something I and other people also know.
Well, the worst is unlocked completely all the time, but it's just something you have. You just put your iWatch near your Mac and unlocks. It's like, great. So now the FBI is happy day. They're like, oh, just take someone's watch and unlock their computer.
Guys, the whole point of multi-factor authentication is that there are multiple factors.
Right. I'm going to have to now, like on my next iPhone or when the OS gets updated, go through all the settings to make sure that like I turn off lock screen notifications for like all these apps that are important. Like I can't have lock screen notifications for inbox because emails will show up. And I got to make sure that like you can't do any fucking shit while my phone is locked. Like they were like, check it out, you can reply to text while the phone is locked. And I'm like, that's fucking great, right? It's like now someone takes my locked phone and starts messaging people with it without having to unlock it.
It's like literally the whole point of locking the phone is that if you set your phone on the table and you walk away for a second, people can't fuck up your shit.
Yeah, at least they have the feature if someone tries to unlock it too many times, it erases itself. But seriously, I'm sure the settings will allow you to make it right, but they kept promoting all this stuff. Like, look how easy it is to unlock, or look at all you can do without unlocking. And I'm like, that's not privacy.
But what I also don't get is that all those things have been in Android for a long time. They're just you can turn them all on. Like,
everything Apple does is something someone else has done for a long time.
Yep.
That's what Apple's history in the 80s. We got a GUI, guys. You mean the GUI you stole from Xerox?
No one's ever made a GUI before.
Or like in the, like even less than in this decade. They're like, check it out, virtual desktops. You mean the virtual desktops I had in Unix in like the 80s and 90s? Those virtual desktops? You acted like you invented them? Oh, we got an MP3 player. You mean like the one that I just saw over there? It's like the iPod wasn't the first MP3 player.
So they made a giant update to iMessage, but
we got a smartphone. You mean like the Palm Trio?
I really don't understand who uses iMessage on purpose for it being iMessage.
Well, I think there are people who don't use Hangouts, right?
Yep.
And all they do is text their friends.
Yep. Which
and
I don't know. Like, I still
is,
don't understand these people who text me. Like, never, ever text me. Why would you ever send me a text?
If Hangout isn't going to work for some reason.
Yeah, like if you're at a convention and like data services aren't working.
Yeah, who knows? But anyway, or someone I don't know their Hangout, right?
Yep.
So if you text...
how would I ever know someone's phone number but not their email?
I don't know. If you get in the habit of texting all the time and just using the Messages app as your primary messaging app, and all you can use it to text, and all you're doing is texting people, but your friends who have iPhones, you don't even realize you're iMessaging them. And the only way you know is because the messages are blue instead of green.
Yep.
And it doesn't, even if you pay for text, it doesn't cost you anything. But who pays for not unlimited text? But, whatever.
Yeah, but they added all this stuff to it.
They added all these fancy features to where if you're iMessaging, you can do all this crazy shit.
Now, what worries me is because Google is pushing their thing that's going to come out later, Allo, which is basically Android's equivalent of iMessage. And they've stated very clearly that it will not have a desktop equivalent. So
it's useless.
What they haven't said yet is whether or not it'll interoperate with Hangouts. Like, will it just be a front end to Hangouts, or is it its own stupid thing like iMessage? Because if it's its own stupid thing, it's... At least the iPhone people who use iMessage for this purpose are those kinds of people. Android people don't do that crap, so it'll just be a useless app.
You can actually, people don't realize, if you use iChat on your Mac, you can iMessage. So if you're if you have a whole bunch of Apple friends, you can all use iMessage, even on your desktops.
Coming in iOS 10, voicemail transcription, the thing I've had for like 6 years
with
from
Google Voice.
Yeah. Also, it'll detect spam calls. Yeah, I already have a spam blocker on my phone too. Thanks.
Yep.
Home automation with HomeKit, they made vague announcements about updates that will affect it.
They made APIs. There's an app that comes with the phone called like Home, right?
Yep.
And basically if you got like let's say you bought home automation lights and a home automation thermostat. Each of those things would have their own app. Like you'd have a Nest app or something, right? Or a Philips LED light bulb app. But basically they made APIs so that instead of having to make your own separate fucking app when you're a company that makes a home automation device, you just make an app that integrates with the HomeKit app. So now the person can control all their home automation products from one app instead of from 100 different apps.
The problem is I've looked into a lot of different home automation stuff because I can think of use cases.
Yeah, it's not worth it, really.
Here's the thing.
And especially if I had a house, definitely, but not in an apartment.
But even in a house.
I can reach the light switch from wherever I am.
Even in a house, most of the home automation hardware that I've seen out there is hot garbage with zero security.
Oh, yeah.
That, like, even if you come up with cool ways to use it, and even if you ignore all the problems, like the bugs I saw with the Nest stuff where you just literally can't set your thermostat because fuck you, it's just none of this stuff really works that well. Like, VR is more here than home automation is. Like
they're about the same.
No, VR is way more here than home automation. Because VR is the equivalent of the people who bought OpenGL video cards back when there was one game that used it. Like hobbyists. But even the people who are super hobbyists about home automation find that they can't actually use this shit and it doesn't integrate well and it's insecure.
I know there are people who have home automation shit that works, like opening their garage door with their phone, opening their house door with their phone, changing the lights with their phone.
Yeah, no, look at all this light stuff. Like the companies have just deprecated an API and just like bricked all the existing hardware that was out there. The Nest stuff barely works. All these light bulb things have problems. There's fights over the standards.
I'm sure, but the people who are into it have the good ones that work.
No, but from what I can gather, the people who are into it,
not all of them are broken.
Have a surprising number of problems on a regular basis. I think.
I mean, it can't be that hard to make a good one. I should just do it.
Yeah,
if that's really the case.
There's a lot of low-hanging fruit companies making really bad fruit.
Yeah, no one's buying that. You got to buy the good shit. If you're in the home, if you're into that, you're hanging out in the home automation subreddit and stuff, and it's like, you know what the good stuff is, right?
Apple Music is redesigned. Meh.
No one cares. A lot of the announcements that they made also are Siri related, which is what our main topic is going to be about.
Yep.
So let's just hold off on that.
We'll hold off on that indeed.
But yeah, they didn't announce new MacBooks, and nothing you could buy was announced, right?
Yep.
The other big announcement that I was sitting through the whole thing, and I'm like, nothing I care about, nothing I care about. So here's something I do care about. It's just a small thing. It used to be on the iPhone, a lot of the apps you couldn't delete because they came with the iOS.
Oh yeah, I remember the iPhone kids complaining.
Right, so I didn't really give a shit. I just shoved them in a folder on the second screen and never looked at it.
Can you delete them now?
But some people are OCD and like they have to delete the app. Oh my god, they got some fucking problems, right? They got to delete that shit.
I mean, I would really like to. There's one Xperia icon I can't delete.
Whatever. So there's actually an okay, somewhat decent reason for having undeletable apps. For some of them anyway. So for example, the Messages app, right? The one that for text messages.
Yeah.
It's possible, for example, that like you would be in, I don't know, a website, and the website would have a phone number on it, and you would want to touch that phone number in order to call or text. So if they let you delete the phone or Messages app, that would be, you basically, there's integrations there, right? If they let you delete Safari because you wanted to use Chrome, it's like, well, what if you delete Safari and don't have Chrome or don't even have a browser or Chrome doesn't update?
Well, like back in the day, remember?
And it's like you click on a link and someone sends you in Hangouts and you can't open it. It's like you would break your phone, basically.
Remember back in the day when there were all the kind of BS lawsuits against Microsoft saying you can't bundle Internet Explorer with Windows?
It's like, then what do I do when I have a brand new computer? I need a browser.
Yeah, how can I download Chrome?
Yes. Anyway, so
wget?
There are certain apps that you still aren't able to delete, but a lot of the apps that didn't have that kind of integration where they were basically undeletable are now going to be able to be deleted in the next iOS. For example, like the Compass or the Reminders app or like this kind of garbage that like you might not be using. Whatever. So that's an okay news. Another news is that they made a new free app. And I was when they started announcing it, I was like, oh my God, finally. But no, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So they're like, they want people to, they started talking about Swift, their programming language they made, and hyping it up way more than it deserves.
They're really pushing it to be a general purpose language.
I mean, it's not a bad language, but they're hyping it up. Yeah, Apple always does that. They talk about how great everything is when it's not as great as they say it is. I mean, you can have a fun time going look at old keynotes where they hype something up for being so great that is now a dead product or no longer exists. But anyway, so hyping up Swift, and they're like, we're making a thing where you can code Swift on an iPad. I'm like, yes, finally, you don't need a stupid Mac with Xcode to make an app. You can just make an app for iOS on an iOS device. It's a miracle. It's the greatest. Yes, but that's not what they did. They basically made an app, which seems like a perfectly decent app for learning to program Swift, like a kid's kind of thing. Basically like a modern day.
The heading for this thing is just called literally teaching kids to code.
Right. It's like a modern day logo. Like when I had the little turtle, kids today are going to have this, which is great.
Yep.
It's totally great. Kids need this because they don't have the turtle anymore, and I don't think the turtle would get kids excited these days.
Yeah, I mean, we grew up at the end of the era where the turtle could cause any excitement. You draw boobs with it once, and then you're done.
Yeah, and like, in the late 80s, me coding with the turtle, it's like, that was it, right?
Yeah.
But now this is a turtle for the kids today. It's great that they made this, but it doesn't let you make an app and get it in the App Store, and it doesn't let you it's not Xcode. It's not Xcode for iOS. And my coworker was like, oh, they can't make that. And I'm like, why couldn't they make it? They're like, well, here is three arguments that I countered, and he said, oh, I guess you're right. So first argument was, well, how are you going to type? And I'm like, dude, it supports Bluetooth keyboards.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. And the other argument was, but how can it like compile? Like Xcode is like this huge program. How can it possibly compile a program to run on itself? And I'm like, an Apple II compiles a program to run on itself. I'm like, your computer right there compiles a program that runs on itself. It's like any computer can, since like it doesn't run on vacuum tubes, pretty much. Can compile a program that then runs on itself.
As an aside, actually, vacuum tubes are coming back.
For audio amplifiers?
No, for processing. I was going to save this for some Mondays.
You have
in the
a
future.
vacuum tube smaller than a transistor?
Yeah, so vacuum tubes have use cases to replace transistors in certain situations now.
Whatever. Anyway.
We're little tiny vacuum tubes.
Yeah, and then he's like, but Xcode is such a big, giant application. They don't want to, maintain that. And I'm like, you don't have to maintain it. You make something completely different. You just call it Xcode or mobile Xcode or something. And then you make it only develop iOS apps. It doesn't need to be able to make Mac apps.
Yep.
Or, right? It only needs to be able to make iOS and maybe iWatch
frankly,
apps.
if I could run either native Adobe applications or like the Steam games that will run on my regular old non-video accelerated laptop now, I would own like three iPads. But that'll never happen, so iPads are almost useless to me.
iPad is perfectly fine. I don't need a laptop.
Thing is, what 90% of what I use my laptop for is running Adobe software. Like
I run the mobile Adobe software. I've never found that I've needed the full one when I'm on the go.
Edit a panel video.
I don't do that on the go.
Yeah, I do.
I do that sitting at my desk at home.
I do that on my laptop.
I have no interest in doing it on the go either.
I do it on the go.
Okay.
Or playing Civ 5.
And I bet I could still do it with mobile Adobe Premiere.
Dude, I would defy you to do that.
And I just don't play Civ 5 on the go either.
I play Civ 5 on the go, and Overwatch runs totally fine on my laptop that I bought in 2009.
don't play that at all. So.
Yeah, you're the only one left.
I'll be like the last man on earth walking around while everyone else is hooked in and playing Overwatch. And then my glasses that I don't need will break while I'm sitting in front of the library.
There was finally time. It's totally an aside. I know I bring this up a lot, but seriously, I cannot believe that Overwatch is actually the successor to Weapons Factory. Like, I never thought that would actually ever happen.
Next gaming show, we can talk about all these E3 announcements like the new Quake.
What was this? Someone tweeted, and they were like, wow, E3 has a lot of announcements. There's Shoot Man, there's Walk Man, there's Puzzle Man, and Jump Man.
That's pretty much it.
Yup. Things of the day. So, this is a lecture.
You've been trying to use this thing today for like weeks.
So, the little backstory. I learned, compared to an average person, I learned a lot about elevators about 4 or 5 years ago because I was so butter about Kineticon and Anime Boston's main hotels having
MagFest elevator party.
Yeah. Thing is, we didn't stay.
Party.
We didn't have to use that elevator, so I didn't care about the elevator party.
Right.
But
we're at conventions and hotels a lot, and there are many times where there's too many people who overload the elevators. And obviously, there's a capacity limit that elevators have, depending on how many shafts you have. But it was obvious the elevators are running suboptimally. They would be completely full, and they would keep stopping to let more people on.
And I got
and
mad
doing
enough.
all sorts of other stupid shit.
So I started learning about elevators to figure out, like, is this solvable? And the answer was pretty much,
yes.
Yeah, just reprogram the fucking elevator.
That's
like,
right.
It's not even that hard.
But people don't program elevators at places that, like, don't have such incredible elevator traffic, or it's not, like some hotel that's got, like, 4 elevator shafts. It's like, how often is that hotel so crowded
it's like,
that
what?
It matters?
Is the nerd going to not go to his convention?
Yeah.
No. He's just going to bitch every day on Sunday and not realize that he can just ride.
They just put the elevators in default mode, and the hotel staff are taking service elevators. They don't even give a crap.
Yeah, and the smart people are also taking service elevators. But a lot of people like to think they can hack elevators. Now, yes, you could. Like, you could reprogram the elevator, just all sorts of crazy stuff with it. But most people who say they think they can hack an elevator are full of utter shit, are spreading urban legends, and just all this sort of nonsense. Now, I learned as much as I could learn just on my own about elevator
The main
hacking.
urban legend I've heard, I don't know how true it is hold the number you want to go to and close door at the same time.
That's never been true.
And
So
on some elevators, it will express.
No elevators will it do that.
Boom. Urban legend denied.
The best case for that is there are some elevators where if you do that, it'll still stop on every floor that had a floor call, but it just won't open the door. But it'll stop at the floor anyway, not saving you any time. The door just won't open.
Oh, well.
So this is a lecture.
Better hope it opens at your destination.
This is, we talk about, like, we go to cons, but we don't go to that many panels at cons anymore because very few, like an anime con, unless it's like Mike Toole or Daryl Surratt, like, no one's going to tell me anything I don't already know. Man.
Maybe someone would, but we don't care that much.
Or they're going to tell me something I don't know, but they're going to mumble it through 50 unrelated minutes of, like, rambling Sonic the Hedgehog fanfic or whatever. Like, they're not good presenters. But this right here is a panel from a convention. If you want a prototype for the kind of panel that I like to go to at a con, it is this one. It was called Elevator Hacking from the Pit to the penthouse. I believe it was given at a DEF CON a couple of years ago. And they very pointedly gave this panel on Sunday at the end of the con because the panel is 2 hours of yo dog, here's how elevators work and how to fucking hack them.
So if they gave it at the beginning of the con, the elevators would have been fucked up for the whole con, especially a DEF CON.
So some of these things I knew. So Scott, have you ever seen riot mode in an elevator?
Riot mode?
Riot mode.
No.
Many elevators have riot mode.
Okay.
So I thought I knew what riot mode did. I was wrong. Now I actually know what riot mode does. I also know how it's distinct from executive mode and all these crazy modes.
Executive mode. The only mode I know about is regular mode and fire department's here mode. Go directly to the floor we tell you to. And,
no. So what do you think fire mode does? I knew a little more about it because I got to cheat. My dad, so usually, the fireman. My grandpa's a fireman.
So usually, when there's a fire in a building, all the elevators would go to the bottom and open the doors.
All right, that's phase one.
Right, it's phase one, and then no one will be able to use them except if they have the fireman key. And when the fireman goes in there with the fireman key, he can manually control the elevator and go directly to the floor they want and open and close the doors by whenever they want.
Essentially, yes, that's phase two.
And then that's it.
So
and then they hopefully put the fire out before it becomes an issue.
Some buildings either don't have the alarm systems hooked into the elevator directly, or
I'm pretty sure in New York you have to in a big building if your building's big enough, right?
Or if you have the fireman key, if you go to that slot on the outside of the elevators and just put your key in and twist it,
it'll come to the bottom and open up, right?
Depending on the building, maybe all the elevators in the building will come to the bottom.
Probably.
Now, if they're not connected to each other, and the talks about this, then maybe only certain banks will come down.
I mean, there's a lot of buildings like express elevator, right? There's a lot of buildings like really big ones where like they tell you to use the stairs. It's like, dude, I'm on floor 83. If I use the stairs, I am so fucked.
So this lecture not only... It's about 20% like actually like legit specific ways to hack elevators. The rest of it is just explaining how elevators work. And it is a fascinating lecture.
Play Sim Tower, you'll learn all the same shit.
So you know the history of Sim Tower, right?
Yeah.
Sim Tower was actually basically a real simulator application for tall buildings.
It was a Japanese thing first.
Yeah, to optimize elevators and shit. And they turned it into a game because it was just fun.
And then it wasn't even made by Max. It was a Japanese game called The Tower.
Yeah.
That they rebranded Sim Tower and released in the U.S.
But for real, like this is
Sim Tower.
This is 2 hours. Like you will be shocked at how fascinating this lecture on how elevators work is. And to give you basically the gist of it is, if you care about security, an elevator is, unless it is secured elsewhere, like before you even get to the elevator, an elevator is just a shaft or a stairway that goes to every floor of your building that is not locked.
Pretty much.
So you got a thing of the day?
I do. It's just a quick thing of the day because I couldn't find anything. So basically, it's a little thing. It's like how to turn any cat into Totoro. And you just cut out this little paper thing and you put it on the back of the cat, and it's just pointing out how like the back of a cat's head is Totoro shaped. So you put the white thing. You put the white thing on the back of the cat.
Oh my god!
And you could just turn any cat into a Totoro.
If any of you own cats, you have to send us a picture of your cat.
So you can see all these tweets here of people who did it and took a cute picture. So I think that they went through the trouble of cutting out the eyes, but I think you could just use the little reinforcements you use for 3-ring binders.
I was about to suggest the same thing.
And it would be sticky already, and you wouldn't have to like spray Post-it glue on it or anything. So how to make your own cat into a Totoro.
Oh my god, this is real good.
And if your cat makes a good pose, it'll be an even funnier picture, like that middle one.
You would all better do this to your cats.
If you have a cat, you have to do this.
In the Meta Moment, Kineticon's coming up in less than a month. We'll be there. We're doing 2 of our, foreign anime opener panels. We're doing writing game rules, which is a kind of new lecture for us. That's a riff on an older lecture that hopefully we'll also be doing at PAX. We might be doing a couple other things, but we can't do a lot, even though we're actually some of the highest in-demand panelists at the show. We run the panels department, so we can't actually spend all our time doing panels. We got to sit at a desk. And
do we get a hotel?
I do have a hotel. It's kind of far away, but I have
What's our
one.
transportation?
I booked Amtrak.
I don't want to take Amtrak.
Well, it's Amtrak or Megabus. Yeah, you gonna take Megabus?
I'll do something else.
Megabus or Amtrak.
I'll walk.
Or you can rent a car. I'm not renting a car and paying to park it in Hartford.
No.
I did that once. That was way too much money.
No.
I'll tell you what Amtraks we're on. I'm going Thursday night and coming back Sunday night. I'm not sticking around. I just don't care.
No, not sticking around.
Yeah. Otherwise, PAX Prime, we'll be doing hopefully at least 1 or 2 panels there. And the Patreon's going strong. Somebody, and I'm not, I might thank you personally if this shows out to be legit, just donated $50 a month to us.
What the fuck is wrong with them?
So I'll see if that's legit.
That's like a whole video game every month that you could buy, a brand new one. Why is GeekNights worth that much to you? What the fuck? And if you're so rich that you can afford that, why don't you pay me enough money so I don't have to go to work?
Because that'd be a lot more than $50 a month.
But they're so rich if they can afford $50 a month on something that stupid.
I can afford $50 a month. I
On
was
something
almost
that's
inspired.
stupid?
I think if it turns out to be legit, I'm going to donate $50 a month to either Neil Cicerega or Crash Course.
That's way too much money for either of those things.
I respect both of those institutions so much.
If I was mega rich, though, I would just pay Neil Cicerega like $1 zillion.
No, dude, if I was super rich, I would hire Neil Cicerega to be my court bard.
Sure.
Like, full stop. I would just I'd be like, I'd just go to him every morning and be like, today, I would like to hear the song...
He'd write for you the Cantarega Tales.
I want Pump Up the Jam set to the tune of Time After Time.
Okay.
I actually legit want that. That's
Okay.
been running through my head. It barely works.
Anyway,
Uh,
it's not working for me.
so people it's interesting. People make a big deal about how much they like Siri, except
I don't notice anyone.
Except they seem to only make a big deal about it if they're fake people showing you how Siri works online or in advertisements. And
Yeah, the only time, like, I'm in New York City. There's iPhones everywhere, and the only time I ever see Siri being used is at an Apple keynote.
or-
I've never seen anyone use it in person.
I have seen someone use it in person only, and when I say only, I mean literally 100% of the times I have ever seen someone use Siri out loud in public in New York. They were showing someone else what Siri is. They were not actually earnestly using it.
Right, but meanwhile, so, you know, I've seen a couple people have claimed, I haven't seen them use it, but they claim to use Siri often. So it's like there's a few diamonds in the rough out there who just keep, well, I don't know if they're diamonds, but there's a few people out there, a few bad eggs who use Siri a whole bunch. But also, I have a coworker who claims, and I believe him, I don't see why he'd lie, he's got the Amazon...
The Echo?
The Echo, and he says he uses that like a whole bunch, but it's like...
See, now I would use something like an Echo way more than I would use something on my phone.
Yeah, I can see that, but I think he's in a situation that's like perfect for it. Like, because the Amazon Echo, it's like, if you don't I have other stuff. So it's like, I have a sound system. If I didn't have one, then that would make sense. But right? It's like, it can't control my existing sound system. It just is a sound system.
Yeah, and home automation is there. I can't be like, Echo, turn the temperature down, turn the lights up, close the blinds.
Right. Yeah. So I think, you know, the biggest thing is like, so the main idea here is that you control something by talking to it. And there are occasions where I find myself wanting to do this. It's pretty much only 2 times. Right?
My one use case is I am biking and I want to respond to a text when I was wearing Google Glass.
That's my number one. It's not even Google Glass, but like I see on my watch there's something there, and I just want to either say like hang up or, you know, quick text reply or something without having to stop biking.
Except I don't stop biking. I just reach over because I have the Pebble with the physical buttons. And
I could push the physical button too, but I can't do everything I want to do. You can do a lot more with the voice, right?
True.
So
like in the Google, like reply. Fuck you! I'm not coming to your birthday party.
Also, if I
exclamation point.
talk while I'm biking, that's not really a big deal. But will it work if I talk while I'm biking with the wind and everything? I don't know.
So with Google Glass, it did like scarily well.
Yeah,
I was
it did.
actually
Google
really
Glass. Yeah, Google Glass worked. I never had a problem talking to Google Glass.
But that was only because it was on my face. With the watch, I'm not gonna like let go and like hold my watch up to my mouth to talk into it.
No, it's got to be able to hear me from where I am.
Because I can only do that if going slow. I don't know if you get like if you bike like at a high speed. You can't let go with one hand, or if you bump into something, you're dead.
Right. The other time is I want to do it is when my hands are busy, right, and not
cooking.
So I'm cooking, and I'll be
like I'm knee deep in a bunch of raw chicken. I want to be like,
I'll be like set. I don't want to touch the phone with my dirty hand. I want to say set 5-minute timer. And there's actually an Apple commercial where Cookie Monster did this, and he's like, set cookie timer.
I want to do things like set cookie timer, set oven, preheat oven to 450, which you can't do.
Another great use, which I don't have.
Siri, how long do I cook this for again?
Yeah, there's another situation that doesn't pertain to me, but pertains to people who can't use their hands well for whatever disability reason.
That's like the best possible use case for this stuff.
You know, like you're missing an arm and you're using one to hold something, and you're just like, you know, hey, do Siri.
Because like with Google Glass, again, while I never used it except
maybe you got a hook or something.
But except to show off, like I would when we were hanging out at dinner when we were in Glass all the time, I'd be like, like, hey Google, whatever, and I just ask it a Google query like, how many people live in Singapore, and I get the answer.
So it's not that these things are useless, and it's good that they're making them better, but personally, I'm not talking to my fucking phone in public ever. That's not happening.
Like, there's no use case.
And if someone else did, and it's like you think, oh, but if someone else did it, like you're worried that like someone's gonna like look at you weird and something. And it's like
I would if I was walking.
If
down
someone
the street,
else is doing it, I'd give them the side eye. I'd give them big side eye, maybe
it's New
evil
York.
side eye.
It's New York. You don't talk. In fact, you're talking to someone else. If you're talking not to a person and you're not on a Bluetooth headset, I assume you're crazy.
I mean, even if I'm on the subway early in the morning and like anyone says anything, it's like, oh my god, it's rush hour in the morning. Shut the fuck up.
Yep.
Oh my god, do you want to die? I'm surprised this homeless guy who's trying to sleep isn't stabbing you right now. And if he was, I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't even push the red button. Maybe I'd push the red button after a minute.
It's funny you bring that up because I got a Rims Rants for the Patreon about that sort of topic that's coming up.
Someone pushed
this
the
week.
red button.
No. It's just the whole. So, in New York, like, there's a certain timbre of voice, like a certain like quality where you hear someone's voice in the distance and you say, not turning my back and whatever that is.
Hey.
Yep. But I noticed the other day that
I have an aggressive thing to say to you.
Yep. I noticed that people who live in New York immediately turn to assess the threat, and tourists don't seem to react to it right away. Like I noticed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's totally aside. But I want this technology to get better. But yeah,
I just disable Siri. They're like, we had Siri on the Mac now. We improved Siri. It's like, dude, none of these announcements mean anything because if I get any device that has Siri, I am disabling it immediately. And you know what the number one reason I disable it immediately? Even though I do have occasional uses for it. Like there's a couple times where I'm got my hands full of dough and I really want to set the timer.
It never does enough. Like if I have my hands full of dough, I haven't set it up. I can't make it
I
do
have
the
Siri
thing.
disabled and I can't use it. And I'm disappointed. I can't lie. I'm disappointed at that moment. But when I had Siri enabled, and I wasn't really using it, it kept activating constantly. And I'm like, oh my God, get the fuck. Like, it kept turning on and being like, doo-doo, hello. And I'm like, why? Go away. I'm not trying to use you now. You have accidentally enabled yourself and tried to listen to me when I don't want you here. And that happened constantly.
Well, every time I'm going to do the kinds of thing I could do with Siri, I'm either holding my phone anyway,
like
or
I can only imagine like sitting there doing real work on your Mac, and like you're just working, and then Siri pops up. It's like, "Hell, what do you want?" And I'm like, "Go fuck away!" Oh my God, I'm disabling you so hard. Uninstall.
So it comes down to because the voice recognition is really good. Like the technology is there. Like
yeah, no, it's fine.
Like even now, like
and
if
the back end of it just keeps getting better, like crazy fast better.
Yeah, neural networks are a big part of that.
Yeah,
guys.
it's the deep learning and whatnots, right? It's like, way good.
But the output of what it does is still like someone needs to do a lot of like real UX effort into making the experience for the use cases that actually would matter to normal people, which I think just comes down to I am cooking. Like that use case, like you said, the Cookie Monster set a timer. It has to also know what I'm cooking. Like the recipe has to be like easy to put in so I can like ask it questions about the thing I'm cooking right now and has to just work immediately all the time while I'm cooking. Because if it can't answer the question I'm asking, I got to wash all the rotten chicken off my hands, or the raw chicken. Hopefully it's not rotten. And then I got to go to my phone and futz with it. And at that point, 100% of my utility was already gone.
Yep. Yeah, it's really good for things that take one step, like what's the score of the hockey game, or give me directions, but anything that requires multiple steps and like decisions. So like they always use examples of like apps for like restaurant reservations and shit, right? So it's like, okay, Siri, find me a restaurant. Okay, get one that has a gluten-free option for my friend.
So already
okay, get one that has a table for 7. Okay, it's like.
Thing is, even if you're at a computer
in
at
this
Yelp,
neighborhood,
like you're at a computer on Yelp or on the internet, that's still a really hard problem to solve. Like
you're clicking on
typing.
like anything that takes multiple steps and becomes real work. Suddenly, the voice thing is just useless, and it's like you just need to click or touch
until it has that sort of semantic context where I can be like, Siri, how hot do I have to make this chicken to not make me sick? And Siri responds like, cook it to this temperature for this amount of time.
And there's a lot of there's a lot of things where it's like a simple search it can do, right? Like what's the news today? Whatever the headlines, but it's like usually I'm doing a complex search like I get to a street and there's police activity, and it's like, man, I know I can search Twitter and do the exact searches in this way, and maybe I'll find the info on
But
this.
I want to be like,
I can't be like, can I be like, search Twitter for tweets and this? You know, it's like suddenly it's a complex query, and I don't know if Siri can do that really.
unless it gets to the point where I can be like, Siri, what's going on at 42nd Street?
Yeah, that would be right. And it knows that you're thinking, asking about something that's happening right now, and and it's not just going to be like, oh, 42nd Street? Well, there's a tourist there. It's
Yeah,
like, that's not
42nd
helping.
Street is in Manhattan, in the city of New York.
It's like, no, I want you to tell me that, like, oh, yeah, somebody shot someone, or the water main broke, or something like that.
Yep.
Anyway.
So it's very rare that you see this situation, because usually it's people want to do something with the technology, but the technology, like the back end, like
I
the
really
basic stuff
wonder,
isn't
like,
there.
are the Apple people, like, using Siri all the time? Like, if I go to the Apple office, is everyone walking around talking to their phone like a fucking weirdo?
So remember when we got Google Glass? Like I was in Google's office, and I was there for a bunch of other reasons. Like I've been in Google's offices a few times.
I've been there.
Yeah,
It's not that exciting. Everyone's been
but
there.
even at the era when like they made everyone wear glass, I did not hear at any point any human being say the words "Okay, glass."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Take that.
This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geek Nights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geek Nights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.
The Patreon patrons for this episode of Geek Nights, in order of the amount of money that they give us on a continuing basis, are Alan Joyce, Rebecca Dunn, Nicholas Brandow, Heidi McNichol, Amanda Duchette, James David White, Christian, please close parenthesis, Kuntz, MyStady.com, Sean Hayworth, William Eisenrose, Jeremy Miner, Spartacus, Iggy Kidd, Matthew Smith, Kajar Tavishan, Joshiro Joestar, Tyler Eller, Don Schleich, Sean Yeager, Clinton Walton, Ren from New Zealand, Robert Lee, Ryan Perrin, Drew Openlander, Ray Lavelle, Brian Cedrone, Rochelle Montanona, Finn Eric Silverrod, and The Infinite Sadness, Aaron Cerise, Chris Midkiff, Chris Knox, Flame Darkfire, Sam Cordery, Daniel Redmond, Chris Haddad, Sean Klein, Chris Reimer, and Thomas Hahn. I think I'm getting pretty good at going down that list, but I think it's only because I've said all your names, at least many of you, so many times that there's sort of a rhythm to it. I overheard in the background out of the studio, Emily's sort of partially memorized this list just because I yell it so often into her microphone. So, yeah. If any of you open the game fast food franchise, not just Chris, and you would be so kind as to scan at least like the main game elements and send them to me, I'm going to make that t-shirt, even if I don't get a license to sell the t-shirt or like legitimately put it out there. I'm at least making it for myself, and I'd be willing to open it up in a limited time just for people who wanted to have these, what I think are going to be amazing t-shirts. So let me know. And now I leave you with something odd.